Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tejano Virtual Events. Before we start, I would like to mention that this event will provide Tejano passport points, and the code will be posted on the chat at the end of the session. We will also be posting some other important information in the chat. This session is on mental health, specifically anxiety, and will be presented by the Mental Health Committee with Mr. Christian Salas and Ms. Valerie Mireles. This session will be recorded so that you may come back to it later and so that others who have missed out on today's events will be able to come and watch it. So now at this time, please mute your mics for best sound experience. Otherwise, the feedback could interfere with the information we will be sharing today. Without further ado, I will hand it over to our presenters. Thank you.
All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. As etiquette goes nowadays, first and foremost, can everybody hear me? Can everybody see the screen? Are we fine? Everything good? Excellent. All right. Excellent. Good. So then it is just my students that don't answer. No, I'm just kidding. All right, everybody. So again, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. My name is Christian Salas. I'm an LMSW licensed master social worker and full-time faculty professor here in the social work program at EPCC. Also a member of the Mental Health Committee and the past chair of the committee. And with us this afternoon, I have my co-presenter, Ms. Valerie Mireles.
Hello, my name is Valerie. I'm an LMSW as well, a licensed master social worker. I'm a new clinical service provider here for the new Social Service Mental Health Center. And also I'm a part of the Mental Health Committee as well. And I'm really excited to be here with Mr. Christian Salas as well.
All right, and this, if anything, Valerie is an example of how, excuse me, the things that the Mental Health Committee are doing behind the scenes are coming to fruition. So I know Valerie mentioned, I know this is a little off topic, that's just my nature, sorry. But the Mental Health Committee from its inception back in about 2018, 2019, has been working on bringing mental health services to the campus, to our students. We realized that due to daily struggles and sometimes even more than just daily struggles, these issues can affect our students not only attending class, but even graduating from a program and our college. So it was originally, our committee was originally tasked with, hey, we should try and figure something out. And that became a, hey, maybe we should start our own mental health center and services. To now, it's not only just an idea, but obviously with Valerie here hired towards that position, it shows that, you know, we as a college take the mental health of our students very seriously. So again, that's just a little tidbit as to what the Mental Health Committee does, but also the importance, the underlining importance as to Valerie's work and you know, the importance of the role that she plays in ensuring, excuse me, the services that the mental health committee and other entities of the college have, you know, highlighted as important for us to do for our students. But without any further ado, I do first want to acknowledge and really thank not only Tejano Virtual Events for this great relationship that we've fostered throughout the years in allowing us mental health committee members and the mental health committee as a whole to allow some space for us to come in and, you know, take up an hour of your time. But I can see we have about 13, 15 some odd participants here today. That's great. Thank you very much, guys, and many more to excuse me, to watch this video later on. And obviously the hard work that is put in by the Mental Health Committee for the El Paso Community College, my colleagues, our colleagues, for the work that they do behind the scenes to ensure the mental health of not only our students, our staff, and our faculty. If you've ever gone to any of my presentations, you know I don't call them learning outcomes. I let you know from the beginning whether this presentation is going to be good or maybe not so good. Also to kind of give a roadmap as to what we're going to talk about. So we'll start off with what is anxiety. give you a little kind of a definition difference between mental health and mental illnesses. We'll also talk about what may cause things like test anxiety, right? We'll also talk about other aspects of anxiety, but hey, I understand, midterms are just around the corner, so let's try and give you guys some tools to prepare for that. We'll also talk about the manifestations of anxiety. In other words, how does this present in people? How do the symptoms of anxiety, or how do these the things associated with anxiety, how do they look in people? And we'll finish off with talking about some things that can help you reduce anxiety in various facets, not just test taking, but your daily ins and outs. Alrighty, so obviously we start off with the what, right? What is anxiety? There are some times, however, where we might misunderstand anxiety. Some people, believe me, even in practice as a clinician, there's been times when people come to me and tell me, I feel so anxious and all of this, and I'm like, tell me what does that look like to you? What's going on? And they go on and tell me all the symptoms associated with depression or something else. Or vice versa. People tell me they feel depressed and they tell me all the symptoms associated with anxiety. So even though anxiety, depression, a lot of these mental illnesses are somewhat, I would say, common, right? That we might know somebody, we ourselves might have gone through it, but they're still very kind of misunderstood, right? Or maybe sometimes we're not using the correct words to describe them. So let's put on our social worker, our clinical hats really quick. There, believe it or not, there is a difference between mental health and mental illness. Mental illness, we'll start off with the bigger one. Mental illness is something that is diagnosable, right? Something that we actually have a criteria for. We have almost a checklist of, does the patient or does the person have this? Yes. Has it gone for this amount of time? Yes. Does it Yes. There's a checklist, there's a criteria, right? So it's diagnosable. That's mental illness. Nowadays, we're seeing something like mind health. That's kind of the new catch term, kind of new term that people are using to encompass mental illness and kind of put a different spin to it. Mental health, however, is kind of how are we doing on our daily basis? What are we doing today that's, how do we feel today? And in reality, like I said, the main difference between one and the other is one is diagnosable and the other one's not really diagnosable, right? Mental health, it's not really diagnosable, at least in our end, but it still can and potentially develop into a mental illness. The reason I have time as our second bullet point here is because let's take a quick example. Let's say this morning you wake up, you're in a good mood, right? It's Friday, start to the weekend. You might have just one class. Good for you. You might have 2 classes, 3 classes. Maybe not so good for you. You're driving to school, and as you're exiting the freeway, someone cuts you off. As they cut you off, your coffee goes flying all over the place. So now you're like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Oh, man. And I was wearing my new, it's not Labor Day yet. Oh, wait, was it Labor Day already? Never mind, it is Labor Day, so it can't be white pants. You're wearing your favorite jeans. Your favorite jeans get stained. You're a little peeved. You get to EPCC, you're like, hijo de la, God bless it, oh my God. So you get to EPCC, it's Friday, so you're not expecting many people. Guess what? You can't find a parking near, let's say, the B building if you're at Valle Verde where the classes are, or any other, you can't find a parking space in the first floor, the second floor of the parking garage, whatever. So you're already like, oh, come on. So because you have to park a little further, now you're a little late to class. And your professor decided to give a pop quiz that day or today. So now you have 4 minutes to finish a 10-minute quiz. So things start to happen, right? Now, we all have our managing and coping skills that allow us to cope and deal with those situations, right? You might be like, all right, hold on, let me just got to breathe. I'm all right, it's cool, it's all right. All that stuff that happened to you might throw a wrench into your day. It might just deal, once you're done with the exam, you're like, whatever, man, I'm cool. All right. You go to lunch, you hang out with your friends, you're fine, you're coping, you're dealing with it, you're managing the situation. Excellent. However, if that is not the case, that wrench becomes the entire toolbox and it's thrown at you it throws your entire day off. And because your entire day went off, now your weekend is off. And now because your weekend didn't go as planned, your start of next week is off, right? And so what could have been just a couple of hours is now a couple of days. Maybe it goes all the way till next week, the week after. Well, now we start looking at, okay, this isn't just a one little tidbit. Now it's impacting your whole life, right? And there's a time frame associated with this. Now we went from a mental health issue of like you had a bad morning, you had a rough morning, it kind of messed you up for the part of the day to maybe the day, to now, hey, this has been something that has really been affecting somebody for a couple of weeks. That's another potential to think of this as a mental illness rather than a mental health issue, because now it can become apparent that you might not have, or the individual might not have the coping skills or the managing or the skills to manage this situation. So again, the main components between mental health and mental illness is diagnosable. There's a criteria to it. And a part of that is a time frame. There's a time frame associated with the symptoms. Mental health, not really, right? It's a kind of things that throw a wrench into your couple of days or so, but you don't meet the criteria to be diagnosed with something. Now, again, some of the things that we'll talk about here this afternoon, some of the forms of anxiety that might be relevant to students, faculty, staff, be tests. What about social settings and just situations in general? Excuse me. So what may cause test anxiety? Have you ever, by any chance, when you get to class, regardless of whether you prepared or didn't prepare or you over-prepared or whatever, and you sit down and you get your test and you open it, or you go to Blackboard and you open the test and you read the first question, anybody's face look like this? Do you get the Will Smith face?
Oh, yeah.
No? Yeah, most definitely. I've been there, right? Heck, I've gotten to some meetings where I'm like, I was supposed to do what? So I don't care who you are. I don't care what role you play. Maybe your face doesn't look like this, but your internal face might look like that, right? If you have a good poker face. Well, what could be some of the things that lead to test anxiety? And by all means, this is not an extensive list, right? There might be some other things you guys could think of. First and foremost, what about the fear of failure, right? You go in like, oh man, I hope I don't fail this test. One of the things that leads to the fear of failing is that people equate the grade to your value, right? That if you got a 90, that means you are a 90. If you pass a class, that means, hey, you're a success, you passed. If you failed the class, then you're a failure. So there's a correlation. In other words, there's a relationship between your grade and how you view yourself, right? So a good grade equals a good you. A bad grade equals a bad you, right? So what does that look like? What is your perception of failure in this sense? Right? There are some people that see it as like, I got a C, I passed, sweet. Some people get 60s, 50s and such, like, damn, you know what? I need to try better next time. Some people that get a 89, it's the end of the world, right? So even that varies from person to person. What about the lack of preparation, right? Let's be honest. Some of us might not put in as much work into tests as we wish or we could have, right? And sometimes it's really out of our control. Like I tell my students, we wear multiple hats, right? You're not just students. You're providers, you're caregivers, you're workers, you're parents, your siblings, your sons and daughters, church members, community members. You wear multiple hats. Sometimes all the things that you are a part of will take time away from things, right? And so it's a little bit of time management, but at the same time, even that lack of preparation or that sense of lack of preparation can cause test anxiety. Oh man, I didn't study as much as I could, right? What about poor test history? And I don't mean about, oh, these tests have sucked. No, I mean, maybe you haven't really done well in tests before. You might do great on your assignments, you go to all your classes, you take notes, but you just don't do well in tests. So potentially in your mind, you've already preset yourself to fail. You might already be thinking, I'm going to fail this stupid test. I just know it. Look, I didn't pass. I didn't do so good in the last one. Why am I going to do better on this one? And so we kind of start to or predetermine how we're going to do just because of how we've done in the past, right? What about high pressure tests or even just the high pressure of a test? Maybe it's your final exam and, faculty were great at well, it's the final exam. We post your grades up there and it tells you you're at a borderline C. And so in other words, you got to pass a test in order to pass the class. Hey, good luck, guys. Have a good rest of your day. Right? We might not be the best ones to help with the anxiety. I don't particularly do that in my test, but I'm just saying. But there might be that high pressure that is put on you on an exam, right? You want to get that A. And in order to get that A, you have to have 105. So that means you got to get all the questions right, plus maybe the extra credit. Or you are 2 points from the A, and you know that there's an extra credit thing coming up, but then, so there's a lot of pressure behind this exam, this test, this one assignment, whatever it might be. And last but not least is even the sense of perfectionism, right? That for, like I said before, you have students that you get a C, hey, I passed, cool, let's keep it going. People are like, I got a 98. I can't get a 98. I have to get 100. Or I got a 92. I shouldn't have got a 92. I should have got a 98 or 100. Well, I appreciate the motivation, the self-motivation, the self-drive. But at the same time, I hate to tell you, an A is an A is an A, right? Whether you get a 90 or 100 in a 4-point scale or a 4.0 grading scale, an A is an A. We don't have A pluses, A minuses. It's just that. A 90, the difference between a 90 and 100 in ABCD is 0. It's just how it is.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about the manifestations of anxiety, specifically the physical aspects that you feel when you're feeling anxious. So there are a different variety of them. For instance, like having a headache, feeling nauseous, lightheadedness, your heart beating very, very fast, feeling faint, having many induced panic attacks or irritability or anger. The crazy thing and the interesting thing about anxiety is that not one person, not everybody matches the same physical effects. One person could be feeling only headaches, nauseous, and also lightheadedness, and a different person could be feeling the complete opposite of things. So it's not just like a blanket form of physical symptoms that one feels when they're anxious. So what are some things that our lovely viewers here feel when you're feeling anxious? What are some physical symptoms that you feel when you're feeling anxious? You guys could put it in the chat right here, unless you want to be friendly and start talking to us on the microphone too. That works too. Stomach aches. Yes. Sick to my stomach. Yes. Definitely. Shaking. Oh yeah, that too. When you're starting to feel anxious and you're just like all jittery. Yeah, definitely. Those are some pounding in my ears. Oh yeah. I can totally say I get the same exact things. I get the sick to my stomach, the shaking, the headaches, the nauseous. I pretty much get like everything. And my face starts feeling hot. Yes, that as well. Yes, all those things. Claustrophobic or like I can't breathe. Sweating, crying. Oh yeah. Oh, we're gonna get into that aspect right now, actually. So some cognitive aspects as well. Some things that you think about or how you're feeling more like internally when it comes down to anxiety. So for instance, like feeling stress, being fearful, maybe you're getting really anxious about talking in front of people. Maybe you're getting very scared, disappointing, the disappointment of failure, of failing your test, of feeling like I'm not going to do well with my presentation. I'm not going to do well when I go into that meeting. I'm not going to have any ideas. I'm just going to disappoint everybody around me. The helplessness, the racing thoughts. Somebody tells you, you know what, I don't know, somebody can go ahead and tell you, oh, I think you have really cool shoes. And then you start thinking, you know what, no, like they actually don't mean that. They actually think my shoes suck, that my shoes are actually really lame. Having those thoughts racing through your brain, and which corresponds with the negative thoughts as well. Your mind going blank. You're up there giving your presentation, and then suddenly you can't remember what your next topic was about, what you were going to go ahead and say next. And problems concentrating. When you have a big exam, a very big meeting going about, and suddenly you're trying your hardest, but no matter how much you try to focus, nothing seems to go ahead and click, which I'm totally can relate to that as well. Does anybody have any type of cognitive effects that happen to them when you're feeling anxious? Can't focus, thinking gibberish, jumbled thoughts? Same. Anybody else? I forget everything. Oh, and that's so scary when, especially when you're taking an exam and you're just there and you're like, oh no, I can't remember anything I went ahead and studied. I can't remember all those hours and weeks that I tried to focus for this test. Can't make decisions. Yes, like everything's just coming at you and you have all these choices that you have to go ahead and make, but you can't seem to go ahead and make the appropriate one for yourself. Or you just can't think about it at the moment. No, y'all are completely right.
Excellent. And you guys bring up a great point, Stephanie, Mayeli, and the other people who have commented on the chat. Because in reality, when we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about this thought, right? This pervasive thoughts in our mind that no matter what we do, it doesn't go away, right? It just sticks here. It could be a negative thought, like I'm not going to pass this test, and no matter how much you keep on telling yourself that, nah, man, you know what? I studied, I got this. You're not going to pass this test. You're not going to pass this test, or you didn't study enough. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And it's just, even though we try to get past it, it comes back. Excuse me, right? And the reason why people can't make decisions or can't concentrate at that point in time when anxiety is high is because of that. Because you are so concentrated and so fixated on these negative thoughts and these bad ideas and such of, I'm not going to be able to do this. I can't do this. That all these other things that you should be or that you can't. They can't break through, right? When you talk about the proverbial wall, right? That you hit the wall. That's it, because this wall is made up of all those thoughts of I can't, I don't, I'm not going to. And so what you really know, like for example, a test or a presentation or a meeting, all that what you actually know, it can't get past that wall of I'm not going to, I can't, I won't, I don't know why. So all that is blocking what you actually know, right? So just to kind of paint a picture of making sense of why anxiety causes us not to be able to concentrate and or to make decisions. So how can we reduce anxiety? Well, let's start off with how about we can stress in school. Here goes. Right? This is where I'm gonna sound like my well, the professor's gonna come out. Sorry, I can't put it in any of the other words. Be prepared, right? How do we prepare ourselves for class? How do we prepare ourselves for school? How do you prepare yourself for anything, right? Um, Whatever helps. And I know that sounds like a very cop-out answer, but look, if, for example, if you're always late, right, in the morning because you have to pack your bag and get your lunch and get your stuff and do this and do that, be prepared. What does that look like? Maybe try packing your stuff the night before, getting your clothes ready the night before. So there's less things for you to do in the morning. Now, some people might be like, oh, well, that means I have to do that. I can wake up a little later. No, 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 no. Right? That's not how it works. So see what you can do ahead of time to try and alleviate or try to reduce some of that stress, some of that anxiety of, oh, crap, I'm going to be late. I'm running late. Try to take care of some stuff. If it's for tests, if it's for assignments, heck, I tell my students all the time, don't wait to do your test on the last minute because something's going to happen to Blackboard. I was grading this morning, and in amidst of my grading, Blackboard went wonky. And so every time I would input a grade, it would get knocked out. I put in the grade for the same person like 10 times, and it wouldn't keep it. And then all of a sudden, it's like, the website can't be reached. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I was like, of course it would happen on Friday when I waited the entire week to do my grading. Yes, guilty. I know I'm preaching. You know, it's like, do as I say, not as I do. Sorry. It doesn't happen often. But anywho, be prepared, right? Do it. Take steps that will help you, well, in essence, avoid these stressful situations. Study effectively. What does that mean? Well, again, what does that mean to you, right? Are you the type of person that if you go to class and if you take notes, you kind of suck it in and it stays with you? Cool. Maybe all you have to do is just go in and review. Maybe all you have to do is just kind of review your notes. Check some stuff that you didn't remember quite well the night before or a couple of days before the exam. For some of you else, this might look like I need to review maybe a week or two before the exam, before something is due, and I have to go by each chapter. All right, I'm going to knock out chapter this day, or maybe make a list of items and look those items up. Do a couple of test questions kind of with buddies, right? Do a test group, do a study group. I'm more of I need to study on my own because I know what I'm kind of missing and not. And if I'm working with others and stuff like that, I kind of get all over the place and probably end up doing something other than studying. Take care of yourself. This is the whole you, right? Body, mind, and soul. What does that mean? Well, your body gets some good night's rest. Your body is like a machine. Whatever you put into it is what you get out. Have a good breakfast. Have a good lunch, good dinner, right? Have a healthy lunch, healthy dinner, good food into you. Don't go out partying the night before. Don't go if it's a school night. Again, now I sound like a dad, not even a professor. Be mindful of what time you go in, of what you have to do. And when it comes to your mind, hey, be positive about it, right? In my office here, I have a whiteboard, and I'm a quotes person, right? I kind of have little things that like, that's right. So I have things like one small positive thought in the morning can change your whole day. Can't even read my own things in my office anymore. And the other one is an acronym for FAIL. FAIL in my eyes stands for first attempt in learning. So it's think positive, right? All these challenges. I have one in my garage where I have my workout area that says, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. In other words, I'm like, I can sit there with 5-pound weights going like, yeah, man, this is good. Woo! But it's not going to do a damn thing. So when I get 35, 40, 45s and I'm like, oh God, it's like, no, you have to increase the weight in order to build up muscle, right? Anyways, your soul, this can be anything from spirituality. This can be anything from your relationships with people. You know, how are you doing in school with your professors, with your friends? If you're doing an internship, what is even your mindset when it comes to your view on school? Like, why the heck am I even here? It's all really, it's holistic. It's a holistic view, right? It's not just about your mind, but it's about everything and all of you. And at least last is talk to your professors. Hey, believe it or not, we actually enjoy talking to our students. Maybe some of us, but I tell my students, I wish I could tell you that I know what's going on in every single aspect of everybody's life. Not to be metiches, nosy and everything, but because it would help me understand where you're coming from. But if a test is not turned in, if an assignment's not turned in, if someone does bad in an exam, to me, a test didn't get turned in, an assignment didn't get turned in, and someone did bad in an exam. That's it. But when people come to me and tell me like, Salas, oh man, this week has been really horrible. I got this and this and this. All right, cool. Let's take a little more time. What's going on? What can I help you with? Well, this and this and this. All right, you know what? Take 2 extra days for the test. It's all right. We'll get it done. It's all right. Don't worry about it. It's just a test. So, believe it or not, we're not these stoic people that are like, thou shalt not change the syllabus. Thou shalt not change the due dates on the exams. Maybe some faculty are, right? But we will work with you to an extent if we are able to, and if you come to us, right? Like I said, I might not know all these things that are happening behind the scenes, and especially nowadays when all we see is these little screens right here in most of our classes, and in most instances, I don't even get to see people's wonderful faces. Right? All I see is a gray square with a kind of a white or a lighter grayer silhouette on it. I might be passing students by. Heck, I might be passing most of you by the hallway, and I have no clue who you are because I don't know who you are. Right? So come talk to us. We can, believe it or not, we can potentially help reduce your anxiety. Heck, some of the anxiety might just be coming to us. I get that. But hey, send us an email if it makes you easier. Give us a call if it's easier for you guys. Just talk to us in some way, shape, or form. Let us know what's going on, and we can potentially help reduce that anxiety.
Yes, and I completely agree also if you're feeling really anxious about a class or about like an assignment, or even for us like employees, if you're really like anxious about like a deadline that you have, whether it's like a presentation or paperwork or wherever it is, sometimes the best thing you can do is just go ahead and talk to somebody about it. Talk to your superior about it. Let them know what's going on. You don't have to give full-blown details, but just like an insight. Like, hey, like I stayed up late last night because I had to take care of my sister, and then or had to go ahead and go my family members in the hospital. Just something that way they could have some type of insight, and it might be able to, more than likely, hopefully, right? It'll help alleviate some of the anxiety that you're feeling or some of the anxiousness that you are feeling. So how can we go ahead and reduce all those feelings? So of course, like Mr. Salas said, daily prep, getting some good rest. I know there's not enough hours in the day to be able to do everything you want to do, from working out to cooking dinner to catching up on TikToks and reels on your phone to just being able to spend time with loved ones. But setting yourself like a daily routine, like I am going to be in bed at least by 11:15, and then that way I can go in and get some good night's rest. Try to get those 7 to 8 hours if you can. Eat a good meal. What you take in definitely affects how your body and how your mind will go ahead and go. The healthier that you eat, I don't want to say the healthier your thoughts will be, but it'll definitely go ahead and help out a lot. And then when you're feeling anxious, I know all of us love coffee, right? I cannot be the only one that loves coffee, that loves matcha, that loves caffeine, the salud packets, all those things. They're awesome, especially when you did not get a good night's rest. But when you are feeling anxious, all those caffeinated drinks that we are consuming can actually help with increasing our anxiety. Instead of helping us slow down, maybe feel a little bit more within the moment, sometimes it might trigger our minds to go ahead and start thinking a little bit faster, start thinking all over the place. Person has commented, I like the idea of thinking anxiety as an excitement and being a cheerleader. Sounds very positive. It is. And we'll get to that right now. Oh, we'll just go ahead and get to it while we're here. But I think so too. Like all of our emotions, anxiety isn't necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on how much anxiety we truly do have. Anxiety essentially shows that we genuinely care and genuinely want to go ahead and do good at the thing we're anxious about, whether it's a test, whether it's a meeting that we're going to, a presentation, or anything else within that time, within that, with what we're anxious about again. But if we have a lot of anxiety, that's when it does cause for us to go ahead and start having those negative thoughts, start not being able to focus on what we're doing in front of us. But again, anxiety just shows that we truly do care about what we're doing within that moment, what we're anxious about. So it is a cheerleader. It is something that we could think of in a positive light, per se. It's just a matter of where we're going, where we're thinking about when we think about anxiety. So going back to it, packing your stuff the night before. I can say I have done it more often than not where I am leaving my house and I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot my laptop for work. Oh no, I forgot to leave my dog water. So then I have to rush back home and go ahead and do everything and then start getting more anxious because I'm running late for work or for something else that I'm running to. But definitely packing and getting prepared the night before helps alleviate a lot of anxiety. Follow your routine, especially if you have an important thing happening that day. Sometimes our minds are like, you know what, maybe if I do this differently, I'll get there sooner. Maybe if I take 4 cups of coffee when I normally take only 2, it'll help me take the test faster. All in all, our bodies are used to our specific routine. So following our routine, following our normal route is definitely a good way to help alleviate anxiety since it is familiar. Listening to music, oh gosh, I love music. I don't know if anybody else here loves music, but I love me some Harry Styles, some Jonas Brothers, some AC/DC, some Blink-182. I go all over the spectrum. And I can say when I have my headphones in, when I have music going, it definitely helps me feel a lot more calmer, feel within the moment of whatever it is that I am focusing on and not trying to feel so anxious. Try to arrive early. I know we always think, okay, I could either wake up at 7 or I could sleep 10 more minutes and wake up at 7:10. And if I rush a little bit more, I'll get there right on time. But honestly, when you get there right on time or when you get there late, it doesn't really help with feeling less anxious. If anything, you're feeling a little bit more like, oh my gosh, like I'm almost late or I barely made it. Okay, I could breathe now once I'm there. And the whole time you're trying to go ahead and get to where you're going, you're kind of just like holding your breath and being like, okay, I'll get there when I get there. Like I'll try to get there as soon as I can. But if we were to plan to get there a little bit early, we'll take off some stress from our day. And taking off some stress is always a great thing to go ahead and do.
Excuse me. All right, so what else can we do, right? Managing our daily stressors. Now, this is one of those things that easier said than done, right? Sometimes. So how can we, if we are experiencing stressors throughout the day, what can we do to help calm us down, right? Bring that anxiety level down, bring that, heart racing, kind of blood pumping. How can we kind of, as I say, take a chill pill? Well, first and foremost, we can do things to help us calm our body. What does that look like? Breathing. You're like, well, duh, I do that all the time. Nah, but I don't think you guys might do it the way that we do it. So as a musician, I used to do this for band rehearsals and thinking it was for lung expansion. We would do breathing exercises. We would go in for 4, so, and then out for 4. Which for us, again, was to build lung capacity, right? To help us play. I'm a tuba player, so to be able to honk a lot of air, a lot of notes in one breath on a tuba. When I went into social work, they're like, oh, we do breathing exercises. I'm like, hey, I've done those, right? Just done differently. What you want to do is, you have a chair, sit down, tall, kind of towards the edge of the chair, feet flat on the ground. And if you're sitting down right now, please follow along. Back straight, You don't want any type of curving down. You don't want any tension whatsoever. So relax your shoulders, right? Hands right on your lap. So you're sitting up nice and prim, like you're at church, right? Paying attention, or in class, paying attention to your professor, your faculty member. And what you want to do is maybe in your mind start thinking like 1, 2, 3, 4, da 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 da. And what you want to potentially do is maybe breathe in for 2 or breathe in for 4. So count to 4 as you breathe in, like, so that's 4, and then you're going to breathe out for 4. So now I'm exaggerating so you guys can actually hear and I'll be like, what the heck is he doing? Right? You don't have to sit here and be like and exaggerate and everything. No, you can do it softly, that's fine. But what we want to do is, in essence, what you're doing physiologically is increasing the oxygen in your blood flow, which if you're doing correctly, makes your fingers a little tingly, because in essence, what you're doing is you're creating a natural high, believe it or not, right? So that's going to help you calm down. Just do some breathing exercises. And really, you can just do it by yourself. You can do it like, you know, putting your hands maybe on a counter and just try to clear your mind, think of a positive thought, but it's more on even concentrate on your breath over everything else. The tense and release. I'm sure you've seen this before where, you know, this like, all right, you're going to tense up. You're going to tense up like a ball. So we talked about how tension, we want to release our tension when breathing, right? The reason for that is, imagine if you breathe in and you go, and you bring your shoulders up, what are you doing? You're creating tension. You can even hear it in my voice. This isn't good. So when you're breathing, just bring from your diaphragm, from your belly, right? Imagine you're laying down. Do you breathe? Or is it from your tummy? Does your tummy go up and down, or do your shoulders go up and down? It's your stomach. It's your stomach that goes up and down, right? So that's how you should be breathing. Now for the stress and release, now we want tension. Because what we want to do is we're going to build up all that stress, right? So, and release it. So come on in, and out. I'm going to be very relaxed by the time this is over. Maybe that's good for my grading. My students will get better. No, stretching in the morning is fabulous. It's great because you've been laying around doing nothing for a couple of hours. So stretch it out. You know, then you stretch in, a little back, forward, touch your toes, a little to the side, a little this way. Heck, even as a provider, when I was a therapist, you know, we don't do much physical work. Heck, even as faculty, we don't do much physical work. We do a lot of mental work, right? You finish the day and you feel like you ran a marathon, but physically, we sat on our butts or just stayed in the classroom the entire time. I used to kind of, after each of my sessions, go and do a lap around the office just to stretch, just to kind of get all the kinks out. So do little things that are going to help you stretch, kind of get the blood flowing. Excuse me. What about sitting comfortably? Sitting up versus slouching, again, can create some tension, increases blood flow. I know some of the classrooms, I know at Valle Verde, I think most of our classrooms now have the fancy, or at least in the B building, have the fancy rolling chairs that are a little more comfortable than the wooden ones, right? So I tell my students that in the middle of class, if they feel like they need to get up and just maybe stand by the wall and just stretch, hey, that's fine. More power to you. As long as you're paying attention, not being disruptive and kind of just, you know, start doing whatever. No, I mean, if you need to stretch, you need to walk out and just stretch a little bit, whatever helps. Calm your emotions, your thoughts. Focus on the present, right? Anxiety, we're looking at, what if I fail? What if this? What if this? What if? Well, what if? What if it happened? What if it didn't happen? We don't know, right? So concentrate. I am here right now. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to take this test. I'm going to do my best, right? Going back to Valerie, what she was saying about being her cheerleader. Hey, I'm here. Let's go. Let's do it. I'll see you at the end, right? It's about how that mentality that you put in. Boy, thoughts about the past and failure. Going back to the history of test taking. How good did I do last time? How bad did I do last time? That's in the past. You're in the here, the now. Positive thoughts. Man, you know what? I got this. I came to class, took notes. Let's go. Excuse me. Focus on the task at hand. When you need to take a test, when you need to do something important, concentrate on that. Don't let your mind wandering of like, I wonder what I'm going to do this weekend. Oh man, well, there's a game tonight, and then tomorrow there's this, and then I got this on this day. No, take a little that chunk right there, concentrate on that, put all your mind and effort into what it's that you're doing right then and there, and then start making plans for later. Focus on what you are doing, not others. This, at least with tests, I always find interesting because as a faculty member, heck, and even as a student, I could feel the anxiety building as soon as that first person, you see them writing, pencil down, they get up and they go turn in their test. And all of a sudden it's like, game on. Oh man, they turned in their test. Good. So that's them. Let them, if they want to go in, more power to them. Right? But I've been in those spots where I'm like, oh, I gotta hurry. Why? I have the exact same time as everybody else. Just because someone finished in 15 minutes doesn't mean my time just got shorter. I still got an hour and a half. Right? So concentrate on you, what you're doing, not how fast, how slow, how whatever everyone else is doing. And keep realistic expectations. This one's a little harsh. If you're getting towards the end of the semester, if you how can I be rather realistic on the answer? Well, you know what you prepared for. At the same time, I tell my students, don't leave any blanks. Give it your best. And that's not just on exams. That's on anything that you do. Give it your all. You'd be surprised when what you actually know. But as soon as you start saying, I don't know this, guess what? You don't. You won't. Because you've already put that blinder in front of you of, I don't know how to do this. I was going to tell you a story about my son, but I know we're running short on time, so we'll not even go into that one. Whoops, wrong button. There we go. So there's this anecdotal thing that I wanted to talk about, and I know I spoke to, excuse me, Valerie and I were talking about this when we were putting this presentation together. And when we talk about high pressure, stress, anxiety, basically everything that we just talked about, stressors and things that can cause anxiety, one of these is our licensing exam, right? So in front of our credential or on our credentials, that L in front of MSW stands for licensed, right? So MSW is Master Social Work. That's our degree. And the L means that we're licensed. That means that we've passed an exam saying, you guess what, guys, they actually know what they're talking about. Right? At least that's what we hope it stands for. That's what I was told in school, that's what it stands for. But it's 175 questions. You have 3 hours. You're put into this room where it's just you and a computer and kind of rows of computers, depending on where you took the exam. It's a total of like $400, almost $500 by the time you're done paying for all the different tests and registrations and everything that you got to take care of, fingerprints and all this other stuff. So it's high stakes, right? Without a license, without that L in front of our name, or in front of the MSW, we can't call ourselves social workers. We can only say, I have a master's in social work. We can't call ourselves social workers without that L in front of our names. That L also opens up a lot of different avenues, like we can do clinical work, we can diagnose, we can treat mental health, substance abuse, and such. So that L is kind of a big deal, right? So I'll take a couple of seconds just to tell me my story. I went into this test. I did a licensing prep course through UTEP. That was about $200, 2 days worth, 8 to 5 each day. And you sat there, and this gentleman basically told you how to take this test. When you look at these items, this is what it means, that each question doesn't have a wrong answer. It just has the best answer. And that if it says this, you got to look for this. And if it says that, you have to look for that. And da-da-da-da. And they just dump all this stuff on you. And it's, oh my God. So I go and take my test. I sit down and I start taking the test like I was told how to take this test. And I failed the test. First time. Out of the 175 questions, I think I only finished 120. For a 3-hour exam, I ran out of time. I needed a 92, 94, somewhere in the 90s to pass the exam. I got an 88. So I was rather frustrated. Came back home and I'm like, you know what? Pardon my French. Forget this. I'm going to take this test how I know how to take the damn test. So I had to pay another $200, $300 to retest, which alone was, oh, that hurt, right? Sat down to take the exam, sat down to take the test, finished the exam, 30 minutes to spare, got 120 questions like, instead of 88. I aced the damn thing, but I took it how I took the test, how I know how to take the test. So that's my takeaway is when it comes to anxiety, when it comes to anything that we've talked about, you guys know yourselves way better than anyone else. Therefore, take all of this that we've been talking about as suggestions, not as the it all, as the answer to, as in this is what you should do. No. Take from it what you will and apply what you feel is going to be best for you, right? None of these is going to be, oh, well, you know, Chris and Valerie said that this is what I have to do. No. These are suggestions. You do what is best for you. You guys know you, right? So I'll let Valerie kind of throw in her 2 cents as well, and I'll shut up for a second.
No, I mean, same exact thing for me. Like, for my licensing exam, I was very, very scared. And I was incredibly nervous. I had a lot of family issues going on at the time, and I actually found a tutor that to go ahead and help me pass my licensing exam. And I talked to him. I was just like, what happens if I fail? I was just like, I need my license to have those open doors, be able to practice mental health, be able to work in a hospital, be able to do all the things I want to do as a social worker. I remember him telling me, and what if you do? I was like, oh, then I have to, he's like, you just keep trying till you do it. And he's like, as long as you keep telling yourself positive thoughts and positive things throughout your tests, he's like, you will be fine. And so I remember I was there and I was taking my test, and like halfway through, I was just like, oh, how many, like, because you can only take if you fail your test, you have to wait 3 months to be able to retake it again. And I was just like, what happens if, I was just like, okay, I was just like, I'm halfway through my test. It's like, I am not feeling good about this one bit. I was like, when's 3 months? Like, I could wait 3 months. Like, it's no biggie, right? It's just 3 months. And so I was just like, no, like I had to keep telling myself positive things. I was like, I can pass this. I know this. I'm smart enough. I'm okay. I kept fighting my negativity, my cognitive distortions, as we like to call them. I kept fighting them, like, no, like I can go ahead and do this. I can pass this. And so when I hit the submit button, I mean, I saw the pass and I was like, oh my gosh, like I did it. But I really think that positive self-talk, like telling myself those positive things, is what helped me be able to go ahead and accomplish that. So, I mean, your mind will really go wherever you allow it to go ahead and go, I guess you could say. Like, you have control over it. Like, your mind, your mind will go where you tell yourself it'll go ahead and go to, I guess you can say. Like, you have the capabilities. It's just a matter of, like, being able to have them to be able to practice it and have good people around you and having somebody to talk to, and like a therapist helps out a lot. So now, with all of our emotional stories about our licenses and everything we had to go ahead and go through to get to this point, now here are some quotes that really do touch base towards everything that we're pretty much talking about here. So of course, who better to go ahead and say something than Master Yoda, because he's significant, he's amazing, right? So as Master Yoda said, do or do not, there is no try. And of course, with all quotes, people could take it in different forms. And the way I go ahead and take this quote in particular is, whether you do it or whether you don't, you're pretty much doing something. It doesn't necessarily simply mean like you're not trying at all. You're still doing something by not doing something, and you're still doing something by doing something. And William Shakespeare, to thine own self be true. I'm not too much of a Shakespeare person, but I feel like that resonates very hard. Benjamin Franklin, do not anticipate trouble or worry about what may never happen. Keep in the sunlight. We don't know how things are going to go ahead and play out within life. Things can go a lot better than we imagined, but they could go differently than how we expect them to be. But regardless, we have to be very much within the moment. I feel it's very important to just, as much as we want to have these goals and aspirations and everything else, which is fantastic and amazing, but we have to still be grounded with where we're currently at right now. Let's not focus on what assignments are due next semester. Let's not focus on which meetings are happening next semester. Let's focus on what's happening today. What's happening, even maybe that's happening tomorrow, but if tomorrow gets you anxious, let's just focus on today. And if thinking about the whole day gets you anxious, let's just think about the next hour. Let's think about the class that we're in right now. Let's think about the meeting that we're at. Take what you can and do what you can, but let's not focus too much on what is to come. So the next quote, you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. When you get that failing test grade, when your boss tells you, you know what, you did not do too great today, like you messed up on X, Y, and Z, like, hey, like all these events, it's so easy to just be like, you know what, I suck. You know what, I'm not a good employee. I suck at being whatever it is that you're trying to go ahead and be. But in all reality, we all have setbacks. We all have things that make us feel a little bit less positive than what we want to go ahead and feel. But regardless, those instances do not define us, and they do not reduce who you are as a person as well. So Maya Angelou is very wise. And another thing, a very important thing to remember, a good takeaway from all of this is, I feel like we never really know what anybody's going through, for one. What I may be going through is very different from like what Chris is going through and everybody else, right? And my anxiety is not the same as your anxiety. And we cannot, as we have the little cookie right here, we cannot put the same cookie cutter and apply it to every single person. Not everybody is the same shape of a cookie. Everybody's a different cookie. Everybody experiences anxiety differently, and that's perfectly okay. And then
I like that we're not all the same size cookies. They're a little bigger cookies than other cookies. But with that said, I know we're running out of time, and I know you all have another presentation coming up. But are there any questions, comments, concerns that you all might have for us in the here and the now that we could potentially answer? I know it's Friday.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean, though, I know we're done. That's all, folks. That's for our presentation. But at the same time, please don't hesitate to reach out to either of us, either myself or Valerie. We're both here at Valle Verde. I am in 1102. Valerie's over in the C building 433. Here's our contact information, our office numbers, and our emails. So if you all have any questions, any comments, any whatever it might be, excuse me, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at any point in time. And hopefully at some point here later on, maybe Valerie can come back on here and give you all a much bigger presentation on what the, again, we don't have a name just yet, or I don't want to reveal the name just yet, but the Mental Health and Social Services Center to be fully open here at Valle Verde and eventually at all of our district campuses.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And I've been floating around, so I'm between here, Mission, and also Northwest. So in case you guys do want to go ahead and talk or need something, by all means, like email us, call us. If we don't answer, be sure to leave a message. Yep. And thank you all so much. This is fun.
Valerie's been putting some miles on her car, but yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salas, and thank you, Ms. Mayerles, for presenting today. I had a lot of good laughs, a lot of good information, and I appreciate you both. I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone for coming today, and quickly, before we let you all go, invite you to next week's sessions. So on October 6th for Math 1314, we'll be covering synthetic division and complex numbers. For Math 1324, simple and compound interest annuities, sorry, mouthful. And then at the 1 o'clock session, we'll be going over body composition by Jeremy Perales. The Tejano passport code is in the chat. We hope y'all have a wonderful weekend. Let us know if y'all have any questions.